Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome back. So with us already being almost halfway through 2023, with the second quarter of the year ending in June, I did want to talk a little bit about what's yet to come in 2023 in terms of game releases. 2022 was pretty packed with games coming out every single month pretty much, and while 2023 hasn't quite been as busy so far, what I will say is we still have a lot of games to come, and I'm going to be briefly discussing each game and what we know about their launch window. These games range quite extensively, so I do hope that you guys will find this video useful, and with that, make sure to sit back, relax, and let's dive in. Okay, so most of the games on the list don't actually have exact release dates, which very well could end up meaning that they are inevitably delayed till 2024, but as of right now, these games do have 2023 listed as their launch windows. Anyways, that being said, I'm gonna start with a game I'm sure a lot of you guys are excited for, that being palworld. Palworld in and of itself is an open world sandbox monster taming title inspired by games such as Ark Survival Evolved and of course Craftopia, which was the developer's previous title. This title in many ways acts as sort of a parody to the evils that could exist within a monster taming world as seen by the realistic guns and whatnot. We don't have an exact release date just yet, however on June 8th there is supposed to be some sort of big announcement that's going to include news that we've quote been waiting for. So I think that a release date is to come very soon, and as soon as we know what that is, I'll make sure to keep you guys notified via an upload. Another open world sandbox title that's supposed to be releasing in early access this year is SKYCLIMBERS, which is a similarly set up monster taming game where you fight alongside your monsters, can capture them, can build settlements, and in this case can even lead to large scale war battles and stuff like that. The developer has stated in the past that early access is sort of like the big launch for them since they're going to be adding content from there and whatnot, so we'll have to wait and see how things develop. If you're more interested in something Pokemon-like in nature, like Nexomon or Coromon, EVOCREO 2 is a sequel to the mobile title EVOCREO and is planned to release in October of this year. However, I would take that with a grain of salt because the game's been delayed since either 2020 or 2021, I can't even remember at this point, and it's been delayed year by year by year, and we haven't even actually seen gameplay footage of EVOCREO 2 just yet. What you're seeing on screen is from the first game, which also leads me to wonder how far development truly is. If you're a fan of Shin Megami Tensei games, there is an SMT-like monster taming RPG in the works that's going to be releasing in August called Eternal Exodus, which has you living in essentially what is hell as the lone survivor of an attack on those in your city who can control and summon demons for combat purposes. This game's also been delayed from a 2022 launch, so for now, we should take the new window with a grain of salt until we hear more from the developer. Next, we have another title that's releasing around the same time, that being Critter Crops, which is slated for the third quarter of this year, and this game is a hand-drawn monster taming and farming title. I'm not entirely sure if it's early access that's coming out in Q3 or the full game itself. However, the developer did hint that there is going to be some big news soon, so just like with palworld, make sure to stay tuned for that. Releasing on December 1st this year, we're supposed to be receiving the early access release of KUBBERZ, a real-time combat monster taming game that will have an open world and be free to play. Right now, there is an alpha that allows for PvP battles, and while the game falls victim to the general trend of online servers going dead like with Kindred Fates' alpha or even paid games like Coromon, I do think that the game is still pretty good for the state it's in, and I'm excited to see what becomes of it. Real-time combat games where you're actually taking control of the monsters in question are very few and far in between because of the challenges that come with that, so definitely go support this game if it's something you're interested in. Okay, earlier we talked about Kindred Fates. Speaking of which, the beta was supposed to come out in 2022, and as of such should be releasing this year, which if I'm not mistaken is going to be an expansion of the alpha, which if I'm being honest, I'd rather a beta that gives you a small chunk of the world to explore and interact with the actual single player mechanics of the game rather than a combat beta, which will very likely have issues with matchmaking after a few days of being live. I'm really dying to dive into that single player stuff because honestly, I think that's what most of us are excited for. PvP is cool, but the main game is much more important. That being said, the game itself was supposed to launch this year, however, has been delayed to 2024, so I will keep you guys up to date on that as well. For you Lumion Legacy, Doodle World, or just Roblox fans in general, we do have a new monster taming game that's going to be similar to the previously mentioned titles in that it's a Pokemon fan game that was DMCA'd now into its own title called Tales of Tenerio, and it's coming out at some point this year. Much like other games on the platform, it will be releasing in sort of an early access state where there's multiple updates updates throughout its life, so it's not going to be like a full game right off the bat. Now, I know a lot of people have issues with Roblox, but with like most things, I always say that boycotting the game because you don't like the platform or the practices will actually hurt the developers infinitely more than it would hurt the actual engine itself. So speak your voice and say what you have to say, but don't bully or degrade people who are playing these games, because at the end of the day, they're still trying to support the developers, even if the developers do deserve a better cut and stuff like that. Creature Keeper is a pretty interesting monster taming game in that it plays sort of like a Zelda game with action combat, utilizing weapons and rolling and stuff like that, but also allows you to capture and utilize monster companions. Now, that being said, it is slated for release sometime this year and was delayed from last. Furthermore, we haven't really received any significant information on the game in quite some time, so this is another one where I'd say it could end up being delayed as well. Next up, we have a game that's kind of a little bit up in the air because the Steam page doesn't really state when it's coming out. However, the Kickstarter did say it was supposed to launch in 2022, that being Necromancer's Gift, which has been in a weird state with the developer being pretty quiet. I'm assuming there are personal things going on, and as much as I'd like to see this roguelike monster taming game inspired by Slay the Spire make its way to the forefront this year, I'm also quite doubtful about it, but I thought I'd mention it here. SPIRITALES, which is a 3-on-3 turn-based monster taming game with an aesthetic that I do very much like, is also slated for release this year. However, again, the developer's been pretty quiet on their Twitter since 2022, and generally when I see a vast lack of social media presence, one of two things is usually the case. Either the developer's been working on a bunch of boring stuff that isn't really going to wow anyone with social media posts, or they're kind of burnt out and just taking a creative break, which is also something that I completely understand. That said, the game's slated for this year, and I'm excited to play it. It looks pretty cool. Finally, last but not least, and this one technically should be coming out this year, but you never know, and that's Coromon's mobile update, which will launch on Android and iOS, which also will come coupled with a story overhaul and post-game. However, again, things have been very quiet on that front, so I do just want to say be patient because we don't really know what's going on. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for major releases that are coming out this year, at least as far as I can find with official statements of release. There are plenty of games on Steam that state that they're coming soon, but that could literally mean any time, so I didn't want to include them here. But just know that there is even more potential for releases this year, as well as the very prominent possibility that many of these titles may get delayed till next. That being stated, if you do want to stay up to date on all things within the genre, definitely make sure to subscribe to this channel for daily videos. You can check out my Twitter, Discord, and Patreon linked below. And I just wanted to say special thanks to the patrons, especially Jim Hamilton, Dro Ghost, Dark Persona, Exodus, and Candy Morency. And we'll see you next time. Peace.